What is up, everybody? Brett here, bringing you back for some more Total War Warhammer 2 online multiplayer action. Today we're going to be doing some 2v2s. I want to say I played a total of 3 games today with a lot of the same players, and if you saw the armies there, you'll know that I'm going to be rocking the Beastmen. And we have a pretty good game for you guys today. I wanted to cast this one not because it was a spectacular game of what to do, but mostly because it was a lot of what not to do in this game. So I'm playing the Beastmen. I like them on this map because there is this kind of large hill here, and even without Vanguard deploy units, you can generally get your front line up and over this hill before any type of artillery shenanigans can take place, and you end up losing half of your army. So I wanted to go kind of a jack-of-all-trades Beastmen army while still managing to go wide. I have a mixed front line of the Ungor herds, so let's go ahead and pop the unit cards out. Ungor herds, just a nice chaff unit. They do have shields. I was expecting to need shields versus the Dark Elf player. And let's see, alternating between Bestigors, and in the center here, the Destroyers of Drakenwald. A nice high melee defense having poison unit with charge defense against large. So very good in your center. They can hold down against any large charge. Let's say our fellow Beastman player here, our opponent, were to charge down the center with some Minotaur or something like that. Simply stopping these guys and putting them into their charge defense stance would allow them to break that charge and allow us to then countercharge with our large units here. And you'll see we took the Minotaurs. These are the shielded variant. I'm sorry, these are not the shielded variant. These are the standard non-shielded variant. They're cheaper than the shielded and the great weapon variant. Trying to cut some costs here. I could have sworn I went with the shielded variant, but I did not. But that's okay, because that extra gold allowed us to field more units than we otherwise would have been able to. For instance, we also have the Gore Bull here. Stripped down. Very cheap. Good armor piercing. He's going to be excellent against the other army that we're going to be going up against, the Beastman army. And we took a caster, stripped down, just with 2 basic abilities, very cheap, around 750 gold, to bring him with just the Flock of Dooms. Let's see if we can click on him, and the Transformation of Kadan, which is going to allow us to summon a Manticore should we need to. Now we're going to be relying a lot on Flock of Doom this battle, and I'm going to show you why as we get into it. For backline protection, we have Korok's Manrippers, the Regiment Renowned version of the Bestigors. These guys are anti-large, armor-piercing, and they're usually the last unit on the field for the Beastmen. And just 2 flanking units of very cheap Ungor Spearman herds. And for our Lord choice, now this is the Lord I don't actually like to use a lot. He's been the mainstay of the meta for so long. And the way I like to play, I don't like to play the meta. I like to play the anti-meta. So when I see a hero get as much love as Morghur the Shadowgave has, he's a hero that I kind of stay away from. But it's one of those things, I haven't played him for so long that I felt like giving him a shot just for the fun of it. For those of you who don't know, he has 2 main abilities that are very important. Spirit Essence of Chaos. He can summon a Chaos Spawn. And he does this by, and you'll see here, cannot target if unit is greater than 20% HP. So he takes a low HP target and he converts them into a unit of Chaos Spawn that to generate over time. But it's a very powerful ability. It kills off a low unit and summons Chaos Spawn. And then here he just gets to straight up summon a unit of Chaos Spawn. So we're going to get some of those throughout this game for sure. And for my backline, and this is something of what not to do. This was a total surprise for me. So I Vanguard deployed 2 units of Centaurs with throwing axes, as well as a standard Centaur, and the Chaos Warhounds with poison, looking to get into the back line of either one of these players. Now I saw the Beastman player was not microwing their chariots, so I decided to just get in there. We're playing on very low model count, so there are 3 units of chariots here. There's only 2 unit models apiece, and I thought for sure that my 4 units could take these 3 chariots if the chariots did not get off their charge bonuses. And I was blown away to find out that my units would get wrecked, as a matter of fact, especially with the poison spreading across these units and debuffing them. I thought for sure I would be able to take them on, but I was very wrong. I left these units on skirmish mode, the Centaurs. The AI is normally very good at skirmishing, keeping your units out of melee range, but in this instance they were not. There was a lot of kind of bugginess with them, and they ended up charging almost directly into the chariots. The standard units of Centaurs got just destroyed, and I don't really understand why. They're not the great weapon variant, which are armor piercing. The chariots do have 100 armor, so that's not to be underestimated. But I thought for sure if they did not get their charge bonus off, which is massive, of 80, that these 4 units with the poison would be able to swarm them and take them out. But that was just, I was dead wrong on that. So I chalked that up to my inexperience as a multiplayer Beastman player. They're a faction that, just from a lore perspective, isn't generally my favorite. But I do like to play every race from time to time, just to keep my skills sharp and my knowledge up. So yeah, so I got crushed there. You'll see here, once I realized that there was no way I was taking these guys out, I then go ahead and split up my Centaurs with throwing axes in an attempt to kite them. And at this point, I'm going to be manually kiting them. I'm not trusting the AI to do it anymore. And I think in the future, at least at the very onset of the battle, until I know what I'm going to be facing, I'm going to be discouraged from allowing the AI to kite for me. So my ally here, he went with a heavy front line of the Savage Orc Biggins. This is kind of the new hotness as far as the Orcs are concerned. Getting Wurzag and his massive charge bonus with Savage Orcs. Every time he casts with a Bonewood Staff, he's going to give charge bonus melee attack to his army, and I think to my army as well. And you couple that with the already enormous shock damage that Savage Orc Biggins can do to a front line, and whatever spells you decide to cast. And he looks like he took a lot of his spells. They're going to be devastating against any front line. He also has 2 of the Orc Boar Biggins. Let me check these guys out. This is the Greenskins Anti-Cav, and they're not going to really have much of a home here because the Dark Elf player did not go for any Cav. We've got a Goblin Big Boss on a Spider, a Night Goblin Shaman, so even more casting. I don't know, that's a bit redundant, it seems like to me, to take this many spells, but maybe he just wanted a varied spell kit. For the cost of most of these spells, plus this guy and his spells, you could get another Big Boss and maybe even another unit of archers, something like that. It doesn't seem very worth to me, but maybe he had some kind of strategy in mind that we'll get to see in just a minute. And 3 units of Goblin Rock Lobbers. So once they ascend the top of this hill, they'll have a great firing line with their arc as a catapult unit to go ahead and smash down into this very tightly packed Dark Elf front line. So a mix of Dread Spears with a few Chevrons and Black Orc Corsairs. Now, they're not intermixed, perhaps a mistake. If you're going to take Dread Spears and these units kind of in this fashion, I would imagine you'd want to intersperse the spears with their shields to take missile damage as well as their anti-large charge defense. You want that kind of mixed into your front line, that way you can move them in varying directions to take charges from large units. He also took an entire back line of Black Arc Corsairs with hand bows. So, looking to get some skirmishing done, these guys can fire while moving, and their range is only 70, so they can basically just fire right here in front of their lines. And we have a Dreadlord with sword and crossbow, so just a standard Dreadlord on top of a Black Dragon, as well as a Hydra with a few chevrons, something you don't get to see very often. Let's see if he's able to make use of that. And the other Beastman player just went with two Minotaurs with great weapons, very powerful units, armor piercing, and 3 Cygors, as well as a Beast Lord on a chariot. In addition, obviously, to the 3 Razorgore chariots. So very unique armies from everyone. Let's go ahead and speed this up. At this point, my greenskin player, I was worried he wasn't advancing quite as quickly as I was, so I didn't want to take on this front line of Dark Elves without him. So you see here I get an overcast Flock of Doom on this tightly packed formation. And this is one of the things I mentioned early on. This is the thing you don't want to do. look at the value I'm getting. Just devastation. I've done about 20% HP damage to maybe 8 of these units. Some of this is from the catapults, but I mean 8 units I got that much damage spread around. And at this point, I have enough anti-large and armor-piercing mixed into my front line that these Minotaurs are not going to do anything. I managed to get my Koroks Man-Rippers onto the Beast Lord to stop him up. And they're going to do just that. The Beast Lord needs to be psycho-charging, but unfortunately he's now stuck in combat. I brought back my Chaos Warhounds with poison, and we're going to be wrapping them up into the back line. You'll see here I'm slightly mis-microing a bit, but it's mostly that I'm choosing my targets carefully. I'm going to be in a second. You see here I get another Flock of Doom. Just devastating. Yeah, that's rough. And this is why you don't do this. We could chalk this up to that being perhaps a new player. Now, I've crushed the Minotaurs, and at this point, I'm going to be moving forward to overwhelm the Cygors, getting my Koroks Man-Rippers, getting my Gorbul and my Minotaurs up on these guys. The Cygors can be dangerous in melee, but not when they're overwhelmed in this fashion. Beast Lords returning, the Minotaurs with great weapons may rally. I'm just sending just enough units off to the side here to keep these Razorgore Chariots busy, like the Chaos Warhounds with poison. And the Wa finally goes off, and that should help me a little bit, but it's mostly as our Orc ally here engages with the Savage Orc Biggins. And another Flock of Doom for me is going to kind of seal the deal. This entire army engaged with maybe 60% of its strength. And it kind of spelled doom for our opponents. The War Hydra is on our side of the battlefield, attempting to help the Beastman player, but we just have so much anti-large with our cheap Ungor Spearman herds and our Destroyers of Drakenwall with their poison. And by the time he gets here and waddles over here, there's really nothing to help support him, and we're going to be able to break him and try to chase him off the field with our chaff unit. So we're spreading our army out a little bit and looking to chase off units that we're breaking. The Orc Boar boys, they're getting into this Dreadlord right here. Got him down about 30% HP. And if he's able to get back into the air, we won't be able to chase him off. You'll see the Beastman player, most of their units are shattering. And that's good for us. That pretty much seals the deal. And something hilarious that happened. Let's see if I can find him. So I went to overcast one final Flock of Doom, and I can't find him here, but I had my caster out here somewhere on this hill, and he killed him. He killed himself with the overcast Flock of Doom. So the miscast chance backfired and killed him. At this point, it was I think it was a foregone conclusion what the outcome of this battle would be, but it was still hilarious to look over and see my guy kind of explode. And he certainly paid for himself this game. 750 gold to do the kind of damage that he did to the Dark Elf army was certainly worth it. Now, had they not been so bunched up, had their army been more diverse, they certainly would not have taken all that damage. But you got to work with what you got on the field, and my opponents gave me an excellent target, so I took it. So we all, I think, learned something from this game today. Let me go ahead and get into the score screen here. I learned that these 4 units cannot take on Razorgore Chariots even if they're standing still, so that was a bonus for me. I learned the AI, when on the edge of the map, is not very good at microing your units in skirmish mode, so don't do that. And I think our Dark Elf opponent here, Crimson Madness, perhaps learned not to bunch up your units so much. And if you're looking for tips on how to place your frontline formation kind of intermittently with Spearmen, there's a lot of tips and tricks videos out there. I haven't made any myself, although perhaps I should. But I would recommend watching any of the other larger YouTube channels that have gone into unit formations and hot groups and things like that. It'll really help you step up your game in multiplayer. Just knowing how to make unit formations, lock unit formations, and move them effectively. So, see how many kills they got on the Cygors. The Cygors didn't do too bad. And the Chariot's kills were mostly on my early game blunder. Had I known how one-sided this battle would be, I would have kept these guys in reserve, and they would have gotten a lot more value from me. So alright guys, without any further ado, my name is Brett, my channel is Good Talk Gaming. This was kind of a one-sided game. It was more just to show the ups and downs you can experience in multiplayer. But the next two are going to be a bit closer, and maybe a bit more maneuvering skill-based is going to be involved. So stay tuned for that. And without any further ado, guys, I will see you in the next one.